Now let's stay with the crimes against children. I'm now joined by the Executive Director of the Teddy Bear Clinic, Dr Shaheda Omar, on the recent deadly incidents that we are unpacking then. Dr. Omar, thank you so much for the time. Really appreciate it then as well. And if one looks at these recent cases, one has to look at how even the parents could possibly be involved in situations like this. Let's talk about the challenge of understanding perhaps child protection in this modern age then in South Africa.
Well, I think just looking at the challenge of child protection, it's come so nearer to home, unfortunately, where home is supposed to be an environment of nurturing and protection. And unfortunately, what we are seeing are being unpacked on the ground, that many homes are not a place of safety and security for children. Unfortunately, as we see, more and more children are dying, at least 3 children on a daily basis. For every 4 to 5 hours, a child goes missing, kidnapping, children being trafficked. So we're talking about child protection, and we know child protection is a 365-day campaign. Yeah. It's not only a week campaign, but it looks, and I think looking at the theme, which I love to hear from the communities that have just shared their support for each other around working together to end violence against children. And I think that is the key issue here. We have to work together, because until we start working differently, where there's collective efforts and where there is the strong sentiment of Ubuntu, only then are we going to be able to find that our children are going to be safe and they will be able to play outside and enjoy themselves without being, challenged and being anxious around their safety. So this is another tragedy. The 14-year-old just speaks to the ongoing pattern of what we have witnessed.
So what do you think happens or goes wrong in the child protection, let's call it ecosystem then? Is there a breakdown there, whether it be in the form of community levels, parenting, policing, social services, legislation, or all of those aspects? Is there a breakdown there, or is that just all of them not perhaps coming together?
Absolutely. There's pockets of excellence. People are working in silos. They're not working, in synergy and synchronizing, harmonizing the efforts. We know there's a lot of good work happening on the ground, but there is room for improvement by justice, by law enforcement, by health, by education. Because if people start working together, we are going to find that it's going to be more child-focused, it's going to be sensitive, and the responses will be more timeous, it will be appropriate, adequate, and of course, we have to look at the resourcing, particularly of skills of people working in these different areas, ensuring that they are capacitated and skilled enough to respond appropriately, where we find that when children go missing, immediately there's a rapid response team outside looking for the child. There is appropriate access to other resources, because sometimes we're finding with law enforcement, they don't have the capacity, they don't have the resources. And I think these are the challenges in the different pockets that we are finding of government departments and civil society organizations.
There's also a bit of underreporting surely at this stage as well. And as scary as the numbers currently are, that becomes even scarier, the fact that we have so much that could actually still be reported as well. How do we fix and begin to ensure that we more than just scratch the surface here?
Well, I'm glad that you raised the issue around underreporting, under-frequent reporting, because of the lack of appropriate and timeous responses, we're finding that people are not willing to go through the processes, enter the criminal justice system, or make reports to law enforcement, because they feel that they themselves and their child, the victim, will be subjected to further trauma, their secondary victimization, unfortunately. And if we look at the sentences that are handed out, the conviction rate is low. It's not sufficient. So these are all deterrents that result in people not reporting because they feel that the systems are failing them and that the systems are not able to protect the victims, the children. And in this way, we're finding, unfortunately, justice is not achieved, and more perpetrators are not being held accountable for what they have committed, the heinous crimes committed against children.
So what is the problem? Are we not investing enough in these particularly early intervention programs, in these justice programs? Are we not investing enough in them, or is it an understanding of the law? Because it just feels like we should know that when something like this happens, the full extent of the law should be put forward. And sometimes it feels as though it doesn't get to that stage.
Well, I think it's not just an either or, it's a both and. Firstly, yes, more investment, because we continue to do the same things with no investment. And if we just look at the Minister of Police in his report, responding to the fact that we have to continue utilizing the resources that are on hand, there is no additional budget for that. Unfortunately, that's not working. We are finding more children being murdered, missing, and being plundered and brutalized. And then, of course, if we look at undercapacitation and the specialization of skills, certainly that is an area that needs to be worked on, where there is specialized training, support provided to the different departments, ensuring that they can complete their tasks effectively and efficiently, and that they have the resources on their fingertips without delaying the processes of reaching out to children in dire need.
Yeah, and one could ultimately say, I mean, places that used to be places of refuge, whether they were schools, clinics, churches, those are areas in themselves now that we are concerned about too. And one would say that you can't possibly put policing at all three of those or all of those sort of places. How do we get it right? How do we fix the risk situations?
So you raised something so pertinent. Yes, all these places that I highlighted are no longer places of safety. We see religious leaders, educational institutions, recreational facilities, where children are preyed upon because there's easy access and availability to children. But then, therefore, we need to look at stringent vetting processes where people who come into contact with children, regardless of what setting, they all have to be screened against the sex offender register, Part B of the Child Protection Register. And of course, we need community members to get more involved. That spirit of Ubuntu, where your child is my child, we need to ensure that there are community forums that are looking out, that there's more vigilance around the protection of children, where everybody makes child protection my business, our business, your business.
Should we be making the Offenders Act, the Sexual Offenders and Rape list public?
Well, yesterday there was a meeting where we had a protest march and petitions delivered to the Minister of Justice at the Constitutional Court. And she said, she gave an undertaking that it's going to be published sooner than later. So we do believe that there is progress in this direction and it is the right move to make.
Yeah. Dr. Shaheda Omar, thank you so much for the time. Really appreciate it. We're talking about a scourge that ultimately the country needs to do away with completely. We appreciate your work and we pray that this continues to be fought against then. Dr. Shaheda Omar, the clinical director then at the Teddy Bear Foundation.